Hampus Lindholm's injury could be a major problem for the Boston Bruins.
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Bruins fans, and welcome back to the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. I'm your host, Ian McLaren, and this is a daily show where we discuss all things Spoked B. Today is Thursday, November 14th, and I want to thank you so much for making Locked On Bruins part of your day. Free and available on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And before we get started, a quick reminder, you can find the podcast on social media at Locked NHL Bruins. And you can find me, my hockey thoughts, dad jokes at Ian C. McLaren. On today's podcast, we are going to discuss the injury to Hampus Lindholm that will keep him out weeks, according to head coach Jim Montgomery. We'll also preview tonight's game against the Dallas Stars and do a quick cup check where we look at the top 5 teams around the NHL and where the Bruins rank among them. Let's start with the big news, though, and that is Hampus Lindholm going to be out weeks with a lower body injury that was suffered during the game on Tuesday night against the St. Louis Blues, that 3-2 comeback win for the Bruins, where they played without Lindholm for 2+ periods because he was injured in the first. I believe it was a shot from Justin Falk that caught him somewhere. They're calling it a lower body injury, and it's going to be weeks, according to head coach Jim Montgomery. As a result, the Bruins recalled defenseman Jordan Osterley from Providence. The 32-year-old has appeared in 9 games with Providence this season, 3 goals, 5 assists for 8 points. He has appeared in 371 NHL games, so he brings a ton of experience at the NHL level with Calgary, Detroit, Arizona, Chicago, and Edmonton. 19 goals, 67 assists for 86 points total. He was undrafted, originally signed as a free agent by the Edmonton Oilers in March of 2014. Not ideal circumstances by any means for the Bruins. They're already without Andrew Peeke, who's week to week with an injury. Parker Witherspoon was inserted into the lineup full-time in his absence, and now they're being called upon to roll with their next man up, the 8th defenseman here in the depth chart. And while the game the other night against St. Louis was encouraging, they were able to get the win. Do not underestimate the impact of losing a Hampus Lindholm for what could be a significant amount of time. If you look at all Bruins defensemen here early on in the season at 5-on-5 play, Lindholm's the only Bruins defenseman who's been on the ice for more shots or shot attempts for than shot attempts against. He's been on the ice for 243 shot attempts for the Bruins, 217 against, for a shot attempt differential of 52.83. In simple terms, the role of a defenseman in the NHL is to protect your own net, to defend the defensive zone, to get the puck up the ice, and to help get the puck on the opposition's goalie more often than your own. And Lindholm's been the most effective Bruin at 5-on-5 in that regard. In fact, perhaps you could say he's the only effective one if you're grading it by who's above 50% and who's below 50%. When it comes to shots on goal at 5-on-5, there's 2 Bruins defensemen who are above 50%. That would be Lindholm, who leads the team. He's been on the ice for 118 shots for the Bruins, 102 against. Brandon Carlo's at 111. And 99 against. Now, you could argue that Lindholm and Carlo play against somewhat inferior opposition than the top pairing of McAvoy and Zadorov or Lohrei if they're up there. But still, they've been the most effective in this regard. When it comes to goals for this season, Lindholm, again, tops on the Bruins. He's been on the ice for 11 goals for, 7 against at 5-on-5 for a goal differential of 61.11. Expected goals when he's on the ice, he's far and away the better Bruins defenseman. He leads the team in that regard. He's the top defenseman in terms of scoring chance differential at 5-on-5. He's second when it comes to high danger chance differential. Parker Wotherspoon with a slight edge there. And he is also third on the Bruins when it comes to defensive zone starts. So it's not as if he is getting sheltered minutes by any stretch of the imagination. If you look at offensive zone starts, Charlie McAvoy has 49 to lead the team, only 30 defensive zone starts, which ranks him fourth. So you can see that the Bruins kind of rely on Lindholm a bit more here in defensive situations. So he's a very important player for this team, a team that has been struggling defensively and offensively. We look at heading into the other night's game against the Blues. Lindholm had been promoted to the top power play unit, as Charlie McAvoy has not been all that effective in that regard. But we're looking at 5-on-5 where the majority of the game was played, and Lindholm was the Bruins' best defenseman in terms of shifting possession from the defensive zone up to the offense and generating more shot attempts on the opposition than on the their own goalie. Now, if you look at all strengths, that number dips a bit, and that's largely because Lindholm ranks second on the Bruins when it comes to penalty killing as well, in terms of total time on the ice. So, yes, his overall numbers aren't as strong as a McAvoy perhaps, but he's killing a lot more penalties for the Bruins as well, and that unit is already struggling. So you were relying on Lindholm to help boost the power play, which is struggling mightily. You were relying on Lindholm to kill penalties, which was already struggling a bit mightily. You're relying on him to help generate 5-on-5, and that's where he was effective. So you take him off all of these roles. You're asking Jordan Oesterle to come in and play wherever he will. I don't know what the line or the defensive pairings will be here coming up against the Stars tonight, but it could be a real problem. If you have Zadorov, McAvoy, Oesterle, Carlo, Lohrei, Wotherspoon, it's going to be a challenge for this Bruins defense to build on the success that they had against St. Louis and to try to make up some ground in the Atlantic Division, where they're just kind of around 500. Oesterle is the left-hand shot, so it's likely he'll be placed on the second pairing, or perhaps Lohrei goes up and plays with McAvoy. You bump Zadorov down to play with Carlo. Do you want an Oesterle-Wotherspoon pairing? Oesterle, of course, does have a ton of NHL experience. Like I mentioned, he played 22 games for the Flames last season, 52, 45 for the Red Wings in each of the previous 2 seasons, has yet to make his Bruins debut, but that will come tonight against the Dallas Stars. And the Bruins could be in real tough tonight against the Stars team. We'll preview that game here as the podcast continues. Get ready to tackle the NFL action this weekend with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. When you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Visit FanDuel.com to join today. It's not, of course, just for the NFL. You can also get in on NBA and NHL action. For example, tonight's Bruins Stars game, the over-under is set at 5.5 goals. So get started with a $5 bet on that game. If you win, you'll get $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. It's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. The World Series, Super Bowl, the Olympics. The world's top athletes get to play in these top-level sporting events thanks to one thing: teamwork. And teamwork can also protect your financial legacy and your family's future. Select Quote's licensed insurance agents are the perfect teammates when shopping for customized, affordable life insurance. They can find you the right policy to keep your financial legacy safely in your family's end zone. You invest so much time to take care of yourself and to be the healthiest, best version of you. Select Quote's exclusive policies can reward that effort. If you're in good health, they work with carriers that could get you same-day coverage for up to $5 million. No medical exam required. Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/lockedonnhl. Go to selectquote.com/lockedonnhl today to get started. That's selectquote.com/lockedonnhl. Thank you so much once again for making Locked On Bruins part of your daily routine, free and available on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And tonight, our Boston Bruins will be in action against the Dallas Stars. Sans Hampus Lindholm, of course, and it's going to be a bit of a tough task for the Bruins as the Dallas Stars are a pretty good team. Dallas is coming in on this one only 5-5 over their past 10. They did lose 2 games to the Florida Panthers over in Finland. They've come back, won 2 of their past 3, beating Chicago and Pittsburgh. So not exactly the best the best teams out there. They did lose to Winnipeg. The Jets are the best team in the NHL right now, as we'll discuss here later on. They do have some decent goaltenders, of course. Jake Ottinger, .914 save percentage, 7-3 record. I did mention the other day he's been struggling a bit. There was a stat where he had yet to beat a non-playoff team. One of those wins, of course, came against the Bruins, not a playoff team at that point. These two teams did play recently. The Bruins losing by a score of 5-2 on home ice. This will be the second and final meeting between these two teams. Our boy Tyler Seguin leads the way for this team over the past 5 games with 3 goals. Matt Duchene with 7 points. Pastrnak, Marchand leading the way for the Bruins. Pasta with 5 points, including the game-winning goal against the Blues, to go along with 4 assists over his past 5 games. Now, we could see a all-American goalie battle as Jeremy Swayman, Jake Ottinger, both in the mix to play for USA at the Four Nations face-off. However, Swayman has played the past 2 games for the Bruins, so perhaps it's time to give Korpisalo a look. And he does have the better save percentage and goals against average for the Bruins this season. 900 versus 896. Korpisalo compared to Swayman, a 272 goals against average compared to 303 for Swayman. So it could be his time to get a look. Now, the Dallas Stars, what do their numbers look like? They are second in the NHL in terms of goals allowed per game. They're allowing only 2.36. Their offense isn't quite firing on all cylinders, however. They're only 13th at 3.21. But they're better than the Bruins in both of those areas. The Bruins are scoring only 2.53 goals per game, and they're allowing 3.18. Their overall team defense ranks 21st, and that was with Lindholm in the mix. The offense ranks 25th. Boston's penalty kill is 26th in the NHL. The Stars are 7th ranked. Boston's power play is 31st in the NHL. Dallas's is 17th. So the numbers aren't quite adding up for a Bruins victory tonight, but crazier things have happened. Matt Duchene leads the team overall in scoring with 18 points in 14 games, followed by Logan Stankoven, 13 points in 14 games. Mason Marchment, 13 points in 13 games. There's some guys who are kind of underperforming that you always have to be aware of. Rupe Hintz has yet to hit double digits in points. Jason Robertson, only 7 points in 14 games. Wyatt Johnston, infamously drafted shortly after Fabian Lysell, only has 7 points. These are guys that really could break out. Even Maverick Bourque, a very young, talented player. On the back end, Thomas Harley, Miro Heiskanen, these are guys you always have to watch out for. For my money, Dallas is one of the deepest teams in the NHL, and I could easily see them making a run, again, to the conference finals, as they have several times recently. So, are the Bruins primed for success tonight? Maybe not. They have won 4 of their past 6. And Dallas is a very formidable opponent, however, and it's going to be tough without Lindholm in the lineup, to be sure. In the Western Conference, Dallas right now ranks 5th in terms of point percentage. They have a plus 13 goal differential. Our Bruins, even after the win, the other 9 are at minus 11. So it's going to be a very, very tough game here tonight for the Boston Bruins. They're going to need some guys to step up, and hopefully they can keep things going. We're looking for Tyler Johnson perhaps to get his first point as a Boston Bruin. He's looked okay, but he had been bumped down to the third line, bumped off the power play units. Maybe he should get up there instead of a Morgan Geekie, although Geekie, of course, scored the big goal to spur the comeback the other night. Looks like the lines could be similar. Geekie, Zaka, Pasternak, Marchand, Lindholm, Brazeau, Frederick, Coyle, Johnson, and then Beecher, Kostelic, Kepke. There was no forward recalled. We remember Matt Poitras was sent down to Providence. The only recall so far has been Osterley, so they're rocking the minimum amount of forwards up front. Same on defense right now, so hopefully nobody else gets banged up or is injured prior to this one. So, the forecast for tonight is not spectacular for the Boston Bruins. It would be great if they were able to overcome this adversity on the road, get the win, head back home to play St. Louis again on Saturday. That's a game we'll preview tomorrow and discuss with the host of Locked On Blues. As for right now, we'll take a look at the Cup check, a look at the top 5 teams and where the Bruins rank among them. Let's get to that here as the podcast continues. Hey friends, I got to tell you that Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. You can run your game all season long on Prize Picks. They put their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. And if you sign up today, you can get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. So if you think Connor McDavid will get more than 0.5 goals next week, or David Pastrnak, you can cook up hot takes with your friends and win real money this hockey season when you and your crew run your game on Prize Picks. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the app, use code LOCKEDONNHL at Prize Picks and get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Thursdays here on Locked On Boston Bruins, we look at the top 5 teams and where the Bruins rank among them. And spoiler alert, the Bruins are nowhere near the top 5 right now. In terms of overall points, they are a 500. Oh, sorry, they're at 18 points in 17 games for a 529 point percentage. That puts them really middle of the pack in the NHL and perhaps even below that. Not among the league's elite. Of course, right now, the Winnipeg Jets are running away with the thing. A 938 point percentage. They're 15-1, plus 39 goal differential. This team is a wagon that cannot be stopped. Following them, if you look at point percentage, you have the Minnesota Wild, who are 10-2-3, 23 points in 15 games, 767 point percentage. The Carolina Hurricanes, who lost last night, and Peter Kochetkov, who I was relying on in fantasy, was injured. Hopefully he's not out too long. They're at 767 point percentage. Then you have the Florida Panthers, 719 point percentage, and the Washington Capitals at an even 700. Goal differential, the Jets are at plus 39, like I mentioned. Next best is Carolina at plus 20. So you can see just how good this team has been in Winnipeg. The Capitals plus 18, the Devils at plus 16, and the Golden Knights at plus 16 as well. The Bruins, well down there among some of the league's worst teams at minus 11, sandwiched between the Columbus Blue Jackets and the Anaheim Ducks. Only the Flyers, the Nashville Predators, somewhat surprisingly, the St. Louis Blues, San Jose Sharks, Montreal Canadiens, and Pittsburgh Penguins have worse goal differentials. Right now, the Bruins sit third in the Atlantic in terms of total points. But if you look at point percentage, they are fifth behind Florida, Toronto, Tampa, and Ottawa, just ahead of Detroit, who won last night in overtime. Conference-wide, the Bruins rank 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9th when it comes to point percentage in the East. So therefore, outside of a playoff spot. So maybe we shouldn't be doing a cup check anymore. Maybe we should be doing a wild card check or playoff pulse or something like that, because the Bruins have won, but it's not beaten very strong at the moment. Again, in terms of point percentage, they are outside the picture in the East, with Ottawa, Tampa, Toronto, Florida all ahead of them in the Atlantic Division, and the Capitals, Hurricanes, Rangers, Devils all occupying spots in the Metro. So the Bruins are going to be in a fight here with the Senators, the Red Wings, perhaps, the Islanders, who are back up to 500. Maybe the Sabres can make a bit of a run. The only teams you can really write off, I think, are Montreal, Pittsburgh, probably. They're already in sell mode, having traded Lars Eller to the Washington Capitals. Maybe the Bruins could take advantage of that and grab a guy like Drew O'Connor on the cheap, or Jesse Puljujarvi. You'll remember a couple years ago, I was kind of big on him, much to people's chagrin, but he's putting it together in Pittsburgh, and it would be cool if the Bruins could grab him or somebody if they are selling. Who knows? It could even be Mike Sullivan at some point. Part of me wonders if the Bruins are waiting to see if he's let go by the Penguins before making a coaching move of their own and bringing him back into the mix here as a former head coach and a guy who had been with the organization for quite some time. It's going to be very telling tonight which direction the Bruins could be heading in. Playing without Hampus Lindholm, one of their best defensemen, certainly a 5-on-5, a key guy in the penalty kill, a guy who had been starting to jump up on the top power play unit. If the Bruins are blown out, the vibes are really up and down these days. Yes, they have won, 4 of their past 6, but they haven't really been able to string together a sustained run of success. That's why they're still mired around the 500 mark. It would be super encouraging if they could win tonight. If they're blown out of the water, then again, the vibes are off. They have a couple games coming up One against the St. Louis Blues, who, again, they needed a third period, somewhat miraculous comeback to beat. And then following that, they will be taking on Columbus, Utah, Detroit next week. 3 straight home games that they really need to take care of business on home ice. That's it for today's episode, my friends. Thank you so much for joining me here on Locked On Boston Bruins. I always appreciate the support. Please do subscribe on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube if you have not already. Don't forget to check out the Locked On Fantasy Hockey podcast next, where Steele and Flip will give you all the tips you need to win your week. Please do take care of yourselves, take care of each other. Join me again here tomorrow on Locked On Boston Bruins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your favorite team every single day.